Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I want to get into some card analysis, both of current cards and some what you might call bargain hunting, but then ultimately I also want to look at some cards that are coming and do some comparisons just to get a conversation going that'll help you understand the value proposition of new cards coming December 8th, tomorrow. Is it tonight at 9 p.m. even? Yeah, it's tonight at 9 p.m. So we're 9.5 hours away from being able to open Chaos Legion. So let's talk about some of the comparisons that are coming with some of the existing cards that exist now and are available to play with now. Okay, that's what we're talking about today. But first, I've got to get through several little announcements. First thing, December 8th, 9 a.m., we're doing at least a 2-hour live event where we're going to open 1,000 packs. This is tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I hope to see a bunch of you guys there. It's going to be anybody welcome. Subscribers, non-subscribers, members, non-members. So come hang out. We're going to try and arrange some guests that can come chat with us. We're going to open 200 packs at a go every half an hour. And we're going to just discuss what we're seeing. How are these cards going to interwork together? How are they going to, are some of them really valuable? Are some of them super, maybe useless? Let's talk about it together. And that's the first announcement. The second is that there are 2 tournaments that Time and Attention is putting forward right now. The first is a recruiting tournament. And as you can see, it's a big one, 500 DEC to get into it. But we do have 2 spots that are going to be available to the best of the best in this thing. And so we need to see some performance here. Plus there's NFTs being handed out for the winners and a little bit of DEC, SPS, and more DEC. So check that out. 500 DEC, but this is an access into the guild. So the more we get here, the more spots we're going to be able to build with the team, with the Time and Attention's guild. So this is a funding, but it's also opening the door for new members to enter right now. Okay. And so that's available. And that tournament is on December 9th at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. There's only 4 people in there right now. 25 minimum we're hoping for. Okay. So let's get in there. Let's blow that thing up. And let's fund the growth of Time and Attention. That's the first tournament. The second tournament, much cheaper, 50 DEC. This is for tomorrow, December 8th. We have 132 entrants at this time. 50 DEC is literally a lottery ticket to get $30 worth of cards, including a gold foil Charlock Minotaur, Serpentine Mystic, Jinjwala, and 10 Venari Bonesmiths. We're going to talk about the Bonesmith today later in the video. Plus there's some DEC rewards. This should be 200 easy, guys. And I'm going to copy and paste every single name, which is a ton of work for me, but I'm going to do that so we can lottery off these cards to anybody that participates. You don't need to be first. You can be last and still win a $17 gold foil card, all for the cost of a 50 DEC entrance fee. Okay, that's the second announcement on Tourneys. Also, if you're interested, we've got the NFT market up on OpenSeas. I created a new one. This is the first Time and Attention artwork I ever created, and I put a little blog blurb there about what we did there and why. But there's so much more from the Time and Attention Guild, including an intern NFT that you can buy and literally become an intern through the ownership of that thing. And not only that, but there's an opportunity to resell that asset at the time when you become a full-fledged member. Okay, so get in there, check it out, OpenSea.io, and look for Time and Attention. Okay, one more announcement. The bulk buy. We are going to go forward with a bulk buy. I am going to be leading a bulk buy for the general sale. This is going to have to figure itself out before December 20th, 2021. Why then? Because first, Agrid said that we need to get the money to him before the end of the year. Second, I don't want to be dealing with this during Christmas. I have young children. Christmas is very special to me. And we are going to, I'm not going to be fielding questions on Discord. I'm not going to be back and forth between potential investors, trying to pull that all together on Christmas or even on Christmas Eve. So it needs to be December 20th or maybe latest December 23rd. And we're going to need anybody who's interested to approach me on Discord with a number that you've got in mind. And we need to have it in USDC. That's USD. That's a stable coin. And you can buy it through Coinbase. So everyone's going to have eligibility for that, access to that. I'm seriously looking at anybody who's got $5,000 or more dollars. And if you have some circumstance that maybe it's a little bit less than that, I'm willing to entertain that conversation, but I really can't do hundreds of dollars. It's going to be too much work if I take on people who have $100 here and $200 there. and we need to keep it under, say, 20-25 people. And so right now we're about 15-16 people, so I'm looking for about 10 other people who want to put in about 5 grand to 10 grand or more. And your reassurance is the fact that my actual name is on the internet, my YouTube channel is here. If this blows up, it's going to be my neck on the line. And so I am putting my reputation on this thing, and I'm facilitating as much of an open book policy on this as I can. I'm going to do live events with the members directly so that they can see not just when I'm sending the money to Aggroed, but then also when I'm receiving the packs, how I'm sending them out. So everyone can, you know, watch the video of me doing that and make sure, like, help me double check all my account names and whatnot so that there's no mistakes. And then ultimately, people keep asking, what about the airdrops? We will divvy those up. There's going to be a certain number of airdrops. Every participant is going to be guaranteed, and that math will come later when Splinterlands tells us how many packs guarantees you one airdrop. And at that point, you will receive your guaranteed airdrops. Plus, we will divvy up the value, the cards that are extra than that, beyond that, because there are going to be some that are not guaranteed to you, but that we obtain as a group because of the math around how the packs and the airdrop works. Meaning, you will get more than your guaranteed access to those airdrops, but that will be done on a proportional basis, on a lottery basis. If you bought 1/10 of the packs, you're going to have a 1/10 opportunity to get all of those extras. Okay, so we're going to do it as open as we can. I'm going to do, again, live videos for that stuff for the members only, those people that are participating only, and we will sort that out. So if you're interested, DM me. Now, that's all of the announcements. We got to get into it. Lots of huge things we had to talk about there, guys. Sorry for the bogged down front end of this video, but those are super important issues. We are now moving into card analysis, and I specifically want to look at Death, because here's the starting point. I'm going to show you. I got this comparison from somebody, and the point was made, you know, look how similar these things are and which one's better. So that got, I mean, Bonesmith is playable, Sapper is not yet. And Sapper was one of the ones that I highly prized in my analysis of the new cards. So they were like, look, this Bonesmith is way better. I disagree, but look, Bonesmith's great too. We're going to look at them both in detail at various levels. And then I want to talk about why I might like this one over this one, or in what context, you know, one would be better than the other, and so on and so forth. Okay. And what else? Then we're going to just do some analysis of the market, try and do some, close it out by looking at what are some great bargains available right now on Peak Monsters. Okay, let's get into it. We're gonna go to Death, and I want to look at the Bonesmith, which is really cheap right now, 52 cents. This thing has been as high as 80 cents very recently, and I think at $1 a card like this makes a lot of sense. Like 115 of these would be $115. To max this thing out. And you know, for what it's offering, I really feel strongly that this thing is amazing. Here's one of the main criticisms I want to rate out the gate. The Bonesmith, the comparison here is done at level 6. So from like a gold perspective, right? Like at the gold, actually it's rare. Yeah, this would be a gold level analysis. They are very similar. In fact, Bonesmith takes the lead because of the poison. But at the highest levels, Bonesmith still stays with 2 magic. Whereas, if we pop over here and we look into the test net, we can see, where's the Sapper? There he is. Sapper, stats. This is my point. I play at a high level. So this is the analysis everybody needs to get their minds around. This is the first point. Everyone needs to wrap their minds around where you're playing this game and what league and what level, because that's going to speak to which card abilities you're going to unlock. So if you're playing at gold, then the point is strong that the Bonesmith is absolutely superior because the poison, it's got everything plus poison. But here's the thing, I don't play at gold. I play at champion and diamond mostly. And so I'm going to be unlocking highest level where we get 1 more magic damage. That's a huge, that's a 50% magic damage increase, right? That's gigantic. And let's go back over and see the hit points actually also. So back to Peak Monsters quickly. At the highest level, the Bonesmith gets 1 more hit point also. So the differences come down to, at the highest level, 1 magic, And Poison and Dispel with the Bonesmith. Dispel is great. Poison is amazing. So this is an excellent card also. But the question for me in that first video wasn't how did the new Chaos Legion cards compare to the existing cards, and are there other options? It was, which are my favorites from the Chaos Legion announced cards, and I stand by the fact that this Life Sapper is going to be extremely powerful, even more powerful than the Bonesmith in the right context. What context? At the highest level, first of all, and second of all, specifically in equalizer matches. Why? Because equalizer matches is going to give this guy, starting point of probably 8, 9, 10 hit points, and you know how powerful Life Leech can be when you've got already a starting hit point of like 8 or 9 or 10. So, but you might say, well, the Venari Bonesmith also has Life Leech. Yes, but it's a dramatically weakened version. Why? Because the Life Leech is based on how much magic damage you're outputting. If you do 3 damage, like the Life Sapper can do at the highest level, you're going to recover 2 health. If you do 2 damage, you're going to recover 1 health. That's a gigantic difference. Do you see how meaningful that would be? Everything from like if you're playing in a earthquake mode, or if you're playing in a poison mode, this guy is going to sustain himself through the Life Leech he's going to be generating, whereas the Venari Bonesmith will not. So that can't be understated, and that is my main reason why I think the Life Sapper is an excellent card. And I put it up there at the same level of utility and functionality as the Venari Bonesmith. One more point on this before we move on to other cards. With the Bonesmith being at 2 magic, it's very easy for 1 silence on your opponent's team to drop that to 1, right? And then what'll happen? If they have a void tank, Bonesmith is doing 0 magic damage now. That's a problem, because again, at 1 your Life Leech is impaired, your damage output is impaired, you're relying on your poison. I don't like that combination. Whereas with 3 again, it shows 2 here, but remember, it's 3 at the highest levels, which is where I'm playing. You're at least going to 2 damage, which is still going to punch through for a 1 on a void tank. So all things considered, and my opponent's ability to counter me, thinking that through, I really strongly feel that Life Sapper is equal to Venari Bonesmith, and I really like the Venari Bonesmith, and so I value this card very high. And so here's the conclusion: if this card comes out from Chaos Legion tonight, once the packs are openable, and you start seeing that this card is cheaper than the Venari Bonesmith, which currently is listed around 55 cents, that's a hard buy. So this is another example. This is one of those examples where you need to look at the existing marketplace to understand the value proposition so that you can make an informed decision on your investing. The Venari Bonesmith is, to the person's point, this is a very strong comparison. This is an excellent comparison. Well done. I'm sorry, I can't remember which user sent me this artwork. But this is an amazing point, and he's right. There's a lot of similar utility here. I think the Sapper has some benefits in certain contexts. I think the Bonesmith has benefits in certain contexts. But I'm gonna say if the Sapper comes out and it's selling for under 50 cents, that's like a hard buy. You need every card under 50 cents, especially under 40 cents is gonna be, for me, gotta buy it. And that's again because I'm considering the Bonesmith as an example of where the floor could be on a card for the similar utility like this. It's the same Splinter, it's the same type of card, it's the same Little League opportunity, it's magic based, it's similar speed and similar Life Leech. If I'm gonna say if it's under 40 cents, I'm buying it for sure. If it's under 30 cents, buy every copy you can. That's how I feel about this, and that's the way I think these things through. And again, I don't know your situation, so if you're not willing to sit on some of these investments for months or years, then take this all with a grain of salt, because my view is founded on the idea that this game isn't going to be an instant gratification, short-term benefit. It's going to be in years' time, these deflationary assets are going to appreciate to a point where I'm going to really realize a significant price gain. And that's because they're limited in number, they're constantly being burned, and the player base is always growing. That is the perfect storm for price appreciation on assets such as these, especially when you find that they offer utility to you in the game, and that's going to unlock ranked battle rewards and maybe rental opportunities. So there's, not to mention SPS airdrop points. So there's about 4 reasons to buy a card and then sit on it. But if you're thinking you need 1 week gains, 2 week gains, that's not one. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people who want to be here in 4 years. And if you're seeing this asset at 20, 30, 40 cents, that's a strong buy indicator. Okay. Now, with the Bonesmith behind us, and I would just want to look generally at some of let's focus on the black team today because we're already in the black. So we're going to look at just Chaos Legion. And I want to just look at some of the other cards here and see maybe is there some comparisons that we can make. Let's see, what's popping out at me? The first thing that pops out is the Carrion Shade at one mana. Makes me think about what I like doing so often with the black team, which is a melee focused low mana match with 4 or 5 monsters. And I'll tell you more about that as I look at the data here. So at the highest level again, where I'm going to be playing, this guy's going to have a strong speed with flight, so a really strong ability to dodge. Not perfect, but strong. 2 melee is certainly considerable considering it's 1 mana cost. And then what could you play that with? Well, remember, black also has maggots for 3 cost. You also have Undead Badger for 2 cost. You also have the Skeleton Assassin for 3 mana, which has poison at higher levels. Sometimes I like to use the Skeletal Warrior as a tank because of its shield ability at higher levels and because it's literal shield. And so all of those options are under 3 mana cost. And then I get into, sometimes I involve the Undead Priest because he brings Weaken and he brings Slow, plus he's got 4 or 5 hit points at higher levels. And lastly, especially in Diamond or Champion, I'm using the Shadowy Presence, which unlocks Inspire at its highest level, as well as Strengthen at the 3rd level. So Inspire is going to give all of your melee monsters 1 more attack. And Strengthen is, of course, going to give you 1 more health point for every one of your monsters. So I'll do something like this. I'll drop the Shadowy Presence in the first position. It's only 1 cost. It's going to have 6 plus 1 for the strength and 7 hit points as my tank. That's not bad for a 1 cost card, and it's buffing the Inspire on all of those cheap melee monsters we just talked about: Skeleton Assassin, Undead Badger, maggots, and then this is not including. There's one from the neutral camp also, which I will often run, which is the Parasitic Growth, and at the highest levels you're talking 3 melee. Plus a Scavenger, which I love. These Scavenger monsters, especially when they're low mana cost, I just love them because, like I said earlier, with Life Leech, you take advantage of this Scavenger ability in the context of Equalizer route matches, and you're just going to start off with 8 or 9 or 10 health, and Scavenger's going to keep you topped up. It's such an effective play. And if you want more information on Scavenger, you got to check out Crypto Llama's recent video talking about that. It was such an amazing on-point video. Crypto, if you're reading this one, that was really, really an excellent video. I appreciated that thoroughly. So there's a lot of ways to do that. But my point is, when I'm looking at these new monsters, Carrion Shade jumps out at me as, a nice contributor to that same approach, especially in the rule set where, all monsters get sneak attack, or all monsters get opportunity, or all monsters can attack from whatever, from any position. There are three different rule sets that can be utilized in that context. Rule sets. Armored up, basics, broken arrow. Is it equal opportunity? Yeah, equal opportunity is one of them. Melee Mayhem's one of them. And lastly, there's one that's like sneak, something super sneak. So there's 3 different rule sets that are available that can be utilized to your advantage with a card like Carrion Shade, dropping it in like the 5th spot because it's got such a low hit point pool. But you slip it in there and it's got two attack for 1 cost. And like I said, if you're using it with an Inspire, suddenly that's 3 attack. And you could build a team that's, 1 cost for that, 2 another cost for your Shadowy Presence, 2 for the Badger, 3 for the Skeletal Assassin. We're only up to 7. We're only up to 7 mana, and we're using 1, 2, 3, 4 cards already. And then there's just however much mana you have left, you could drop in there any of those other ones I mentioned, right? Like the you could put the Skeletal Warrior in the first position to give yourself a little bit more hit tanking to keep your Shadowy Presence alive longer. Or if you've got 10 or 15 more mana, you can put a nice big beast in the front, like a Nightmare or an Undead Rex, or something to be really beefy at the front line, while the back end is just chipping away, again utilizing the rule set. So that's a card for me that I want to look at, because like I've said so many times, low mana cards are so useful because they end up being able to slip in that on those battles where you just have 1 more spot but no more mana. You got 1 more mana, you got 0 more mana. These ones and the Fiends are going to be so helpful for those contexts. And Chaos. And so Carrion Shade to me is going to be one I'm going to be watching. Not particularly, I don't think it's game breaking. It's a card that I see utility for, and that I specifically think can fit into that game mode that I so often play, that one I just described to you. And also the Corpse Fiend is the same thing. It's the exact same thing. 0 mana, going up to just 1, but nice silence at the top. Love that. And again, just building out a melee team, especially for one of those 3 rule sets that are going to be able to rely on 1 tank at the front end, and then just a bunch of little nerds that are going to be chipping away at your enemy. I love that. That's what I do a lot, and it often to effect. Now, it will end up not working for you if your enemy ends up what's that ability called, where they take away some of your melee damage. I forget what that's called. The opposite of Inspire. So if they nerf your melee damage, and then if they have shield, these little nerds aren't going to get the job done, because 1 melee isn't going to do anything to a shielded monster. So you do have to read your opponent a little bit, but I love having these options. And even if I'm not doing exactly what I just laid out to you, cards like Carrion Shade and Corpse Fiend are going to be so valuable, like I said previously, for the Furious Chicken, or for the Creeping Ooze, or even just like I illustrated today with the Shadowy Presence. You put them in the way so that you can create opportunity for other monsters. And they're so trivial in terms of the cost that they're setting your team back, that they can open up opportunity to drop some big bombs, like things you're familiar with, like whether it's especially with the Death team, maybe you're talking about Lord of Darkness or Pegasus or Nightmare, or right, some of these big, even I love to have Octopider on the back end. Some really high cost mana monsters, they can be put to work in like a 20 mana cap because you're utilizing such few mana points in your first 2 or 3 or 4 spots. And so I really like those new cards. And then in the carrying forward the conversation around bargain hunting, what I want to think about, now that I've thought through the use case on the Carrion Shade, and for that matter the Corpse Fiend, I want to then carry that into, I guess this might even apply to the Beetle. Yeah, it really would. This is interesting with the shield and a decent amount of hit points and armor. This is the card I like. So yeah, I'm going to even throw the Beetle in there. So maybe the Snitch. The Snitch has a bunch of speed, doesn't it? Yeah. So these are my... So from all these... Maybe even the Rift. What are you doing over there, buddy? No snow... No... attack, just a bunch of nerfs. Okay. Still. So here's the thing. Carrion Shade, Riftwing, Shadow Snitch, Crypt Beetle, Corpse Fiend. All of them fall into that low mana match. They're functional within the Little League. They're going to offer a lot of utility in terms of stretching your mana budget. So I think of them in the same vein. They offer they're all melee damage, with the exception of Riftwing, which is really just a support. And so I'm going to be looking to utilize some of the price data on some of these black focused, low mana cost melee monsters, such as Marrow's Ghost, such as Maggots, such as Undead Badger. Probably not the Skeletal Assassin, because this is just a bit older, and you're going to see like beta cards have their own price system. You know what I mean? They've been around long enough that they're detached from what we're seeing with the more modern cards. But right there, I gave you 4 examples, didn't I? Marrow's Ghost, even the Deceiver. It's not, mind you, it's not a Little League monster. But the Marrow's Ghost, the Maggots, and the Badger. There you go. There's 3 examples. Or in the Slime Ball, there's 3 examples. So I think if you're getting, and this is common, 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 common. So those are all commons. What are the new monsters? Common, 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 legendary. Is that it? Was it 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah. So 4 of them are common. One of them's legendary. The Corpse Fiend is going to be in its own kind of conversation. But for these 4, Shade, Wing, Snitch, and Beetle, I want you to come into the marketplace if you're interested in the use case I just described. I want you to come into the marketplace when these things are live, and I want you to look at the price points on these things. Are they selling in the 50 to 30 cent range? That's going to be a bargain. Comparing that to 57 cents per BCX if you're buying multiple BCX, 62 cents, 72 cents a buck. If you're buying those 4 cards we just pointed out from the new packs, and you're getting it in the 20-30% price, awesome price. Now, as I pointed out before, in other videos, they might launch at 30 cents and then dip to 20. Do we care about that? Do you think I care about that? What's my advice to you on that? I hope you already know. My advice is, I don't look at it like that's a loss. I look at it like that's a new opportunity. So if on day 1 these things are 30 cents, based on the analysis I just provided you, that's going to put them at a price point that makes them very, very interesting. If death is your team, if the utility I described to you makes sense to you, then 20 to 30 cents is going to be an excellent price to pay for those common monsters. That would make them more expensive than the cheapest common monsters available right now from the rewards. But I think that's probably reasonable. I think 20 or 30 cents is where they're probably going to come out at. And you might say, but Dwayne, if I wait, a month or 2 months, there's going to be even more Chaos Legion packs sold. There'll be even more liquidity. Then the price will dip even more. That might be so. And it also might not be so. The reasons that would work would be that the amount of liquidity grows and grows and grows. But here's the counter argument. If the card ends up being very pivotal as an interplay between the rest of the decks and how people engage with the new Chaos Legion meta, which we don't understand yet, and you can't possibly understand fully until we get into it, then you're going to find certain cards they get identified as meta and they're going to fly away. The price is just, it's not going to be, they're not going to linger at the low levels for long. And so if you think that these cards have utility, and I obviously do, then I'm going to be looking to add to them, even if I might expect that their prices will decline 20 or 30% in the next coming months, because I don't really care about that. It's not a loss. I'll have opportunity tonight and tomorrow and this week on these things, and I'll have more opportunity in the coming months if the prices do in fact decline. And I'll continue to build that bag for years to come until the next full bull run happens, and then that's my timeline. So if your time horizon is different, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, okay? There's so much more here, but that's what I wanted to start with today, because as far as I'm concerned, having low cost mana monsters from the new Chaos Legion deck in particular are going to be super important because of that utility it offers in terms of filling the spots and allowing you to build out a full team, or for that matter, to introduce one expensive monster or summoner, and then offset your budget by having many low expensive opportunities like those ones we've featured here today. And the Fiend, before we close, I'll just say the Fiend is going to be a different story. The pricing on something like this, I would think, would be, far more than what I just said for these. 20 or 30 cents would be a good deal for these. Legendary, you only need 11 of them. It's going to be far less common. You really would want... Most people are just going to be happy with one. But I'm going to want that silence. Especially think about how powerful is this silence with this team? Lord of Darkness in the wild format is still the boss. And also, to a lesser extent, Dark Huan is kind of a very strong secondary. And then if you're using things like Gelatinous Cube or whatever, silence is so important. And for 0 cost to drop another silence in there is, of course, game changing. And so I'm specifically thinking about this, applying Corpse Fiend's application to wild. But in the modern, I still think silence is going to be super helpful. You've seen what I pointed out previously with the fire cards and all those big magic monsters with the recharge ability or the giant killer ability. To be able to take away one of those magic points is going to be really pivotal. So I'm going to say, especially at a higher level, for me, 11 of these is necessary. And I'm probably going to say the same thing about every Fiend, but I certainly don't think these are going to go for less than $1. I'm going to say, let's go look at the market and see what I would think would be a fair price. This is harder because there's a smaller smaller number of legendaries to look at that would be anything like that, right? I guess you'd be looking at like a Theorosa Nightshade, which is totally different, right? It's magic. It's got 2 buffs, and one of them's Triage, which is super powerful. But it's 1 mana. You got Fallen Spectre at 2 mana. Again, magic damage. It's a totally support monster that, again, the Fiend is not really comparable. It's hard to price that card. I think the Fiends need to come out first. And I don't think I think the market is going to find the floor for those things, and that's going to take some doing. But I would at least expect, let me think this through. My first thought, as I look at these prices for Harklaw and for Jimbilka and even Oceanus, I have to imagine that the price for the Fiend is going to come out lower than this. This thing is a main tank, right? Wouldn't you assume the Fiend would have to be cheaper? As great as it is, as helpful as it certainly will be, yes, I have to say the Corpse Fiend would necessarily be cheaper than a main tank. But then again, this has a totally different use case. And so that 0 mana is look what we've seen with the chicken and what's gone on with that price. So, obviously this card is going to have a certain desirability that even the Heartclaw won't, because not everybody's going to want an 8 mana cost tank that's slow. This is an interesting use card, but it's a totally, so I'm going to say I could see this thing being less than roughly $10, but I could also see it being roughly $20, this one. And I would call it a deal at $20 even, frankly, because you only really need one. And let's look at chicken quickly, and this will be the last point on this, because chicken is the only 0 cost right now. So let's just understand what we're getting right here with chicken. Rare, 0, no significant abilities, It's just a meat shield really, but in the right context, you can play it in such a way with Enrage and with Equalizer that it ends up being really, really helpful. Really, in fact, with the Enrage and you drop some Inspire, it can start to be pretty powerful in certain contexts. With the Equalizer, with the Enrage, with Inspire. Only really at higher levels, though, I would say, at the highest level. So one cost of this is still, what, $27? I'm going to say this price probably keeps declining once those fiends come out. Don't you? This is neutral, so that's an interesting separate use case. But when the fiends start popping out, there's going to be less desire to have one Furious Chicken and more interest in perhaps seeking the specific fiend that you would utilize for your deck. So I'm going to say the price on chicken is going to take a little bit of a dump. Maybe not, significant exactly, but 25%, maybe more would make some sense to me. So again, I'm going to say that the fiend is probably worth, in terms of the utility it's going to offer, especially at a higher level, in certain games, it's just going to be that ace that you need to kind of close out certain games and pull that victory out. I'm going to say it's probably worth $20, but I'm going to say it's going to come out around 10. I'd love to see what you guys think in the comments below. But yeah, I think if it was $20 for a 0 mana cost legendary that's going to offer another silence that I can utilize in conjunction with my Lord of Darkness, which is so vulnerable to magic, and again, or Dark Juan, both of which really benefit from nerfing your opponent's magic, I'm going to say this thing is worth probably $20 a pop. Yet I think it's going to come out less than Heartclaw, because people are going to say to themselves, Heartclaw is a main tank. Why would I pay $20 for a 0 cost fiend that really just helps out a little when I could get a main tank card? Do you agree, guys? This is just me thinking it through. I don't really know. I can't wait to read the comments on this one. And I'm going to call it there. Get involved in those tournaments. If you're interested in both the NFTs, let me know. If you're interested in the bulk buy, let me know. And as always, if you stuck around to the end, make sure that you like and subscribe. We cover Splinterlands all day, every day, because it's changed my life and I think it could change yours. And conversations around kind of the utility or the use case or the future prospects of appreciation are really what get me excited for this game. So that's what we talk about a lot. As always, thank you for your time and attention. Have an amazing day. God bless.